By a team that fights together, stays together. 3 opponents die. This is amazing.
Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deislayers, and in this video, we're going to discuss and review this oh so wonderful, wondrous, and one-of-a-kind scout rifle known as the Randy's throwing knife. I'm sure that by now, many of you have already heard that this thing is now classified as a ritual weapon, and so it's the substitute for what pinnacle weapons were in the past. And so those are long gone, but lo and behold, we have this beautiful ritual weapon known as the Randy's throwing knife. And so the next question that you're probably asking yourselves is it worth the grind? The answer to that question, Deislayers, is a resounding yes, capital Y, capital E, capital S. There is literally no other scout rifle in the entire game that can roll with some of the perks that this thing has, especially for this archetype. And so for that one reason, it can have some crazy cool things that are going to happen with it in terms of the weapons TTKs and all that kind of jazz. And so we're going to get into that in just a couple of minutes. But on top of this, we're also going to cover the quest steps to get this thing, how to get this thing by using what weapons, what kind of strategies that you need to use, and then finally figure out as to whether or not this thing is really what's hyped up to be. I got a feeling that you all are going to be quite surprised, especially with this weapon's lethality. But without giving any more spoilers, the only thing left to do is just to simply sit back, relax, eviscerate that notification button, and let's jump right into the video. It's at this point in time that I would normally go over all the weapons TTK stats so that you guys can see all the weapons lethality. But before I can even begin that, you all know that this is a quest step, and so you have to acquire the quest step. And the way in which you do so is by number 1, having the Shadowkeep DLC. And as soon as you have that, all you gotta do next is just go to Lord Shaxx and pick up the quest known as Field of View. With the Field of View quest, you have to complete 3 objectives. As you guys can see from right there, those objectives are enemies defeated and medals, specifically 14,000, followed by getting 2,100 glory points in the competitive playlist, and then lastly getting 450 final blows with scout rifles specifically in PvP. Now what you also might have noticed just very briefly within that quest step is that states that multi-kills grant the most efficient progress towards scout rifle final blows. As what this then means to you is that if you happen to get more multi-kills with scout rifles, then you're going to have the enemies defeated and medal section of that quest completed very fast. But in order for you to do this, you have to know which weapons to use. Now if you were to ask me, I would suggest using one of 3 exotic scout rifles, and they include the Mighty Multi-Tool, the Polaris Lance, and the Jade Rabbit. No matter which one of those 3 views that you prefer the most, you simply can't go wrong because they are all going to do phenomenal in PvP. And especially with this brand new quest line, we're going to be seeing a ton of Guardians using scout rifles as well, and so you're going to have a ton of scout battles. But nonetheless, what you also can use is something like, say, a Mananan SR4 from back in year 1, or maybe something brand spanking new like that of the Imperative from the Vex weapons. Depending on that weapon's role, it might just be the best thing to complete this entire quest. But personally, I happen to use the Mida, and oh my gosh, I forgot as to how good that thing was, and still is to this very day because it's got high caliber rounds, and it's got an aim assistance at 100 out of 100, and those 2 things combined mean that it's going to have lots of flinch, so much to the point that the enemy's scout rifle is going to be skyrocketing through the roof, and also almost make it so that almost every single one of those bullets lands that target due to that very high aim assist. Now you all know that I play extremely aggressive, almost to the point where it's a hyper aggressive format. But with that, I was still able to get plenty of double kills and triple kills using the scout rifle and the scout rifle alone, and thus I was able to complete the enemies defeated and medal section extremely fast. And so really, what was kind of my biggest problem was just getting those final blows. And so that's just going to take some time, and eventually you'll get them, no problem whatsoever, so don't sweat that. As far as the glory points go, well, Deislayers, you got some great news because now we have that solo playlist, aka the 3v3 survival playlist, that's then going to give you those glory points like taking candy from a baby. It's that freaking awesome. The very last thing that I can say about acquiring the weapon and the quest steps in general is to always maintain a vigilance of how to use scout rifles, and the most pivotal aspect about this is their shot rhythm, aka their shot cadence. This applies to all weapons in the entire game, but I find it to be more important for single fire weapons like hand cannons and scout rifles. And the reason as to why this is because they all fire one single shot at a time, and thus you can time precisely how much that's going to be in between those shots, then time the rhythm with that via hearing the shot being fired, and then matching it with your eyes via the weapon's recoil, and then combine all these things together to then get that very nice cadence. If you can pick this up, there is no doubt in my mind that you're going to complete this faster than what the Flash could, and heck, it might be even faster than what Yu-Gi-Oh can say in its time to duel. Now that, my friends, is saying something right there. But moving on, the very next thing that we have to cover is this weapon as a whole. And so now we're going to really look and analyze the weapon, in particular its TTK stats. And so right off the bat, throughout this game footage so far, you've probably already noticed that this thing is then doing 47 points of damage in the head and 28 points of damage in the body. Now, if we were to associate each one of these two things to an optimal TTK and to a body shot TTK respectively, what you have to understand first is that this thing is very, very unique because it can do two different types of TTKs for its base TTK, just solely depending on the enemy Guardian's resilience. To kind of give you a better perspective of this, what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you all the TTK computations right there on screen. And so on the left hand side, we had the weapon's base PvP stats with a Guardian at 10 resilience, aka 201 points of health. On the right hand side, we once again had weapons base TTK stats, but with a Guardian at 2 resilience, aka 188 points of health. Both of these two stat sheets show that they're going to either need one less or one more bullet, just depending upon how that you look at this. And so on the left, we see that this weapon's optimal TTK is at 0.93 seconds, but on the right, it might be less at 0.7 seconds. Now, something else that you might have noticed on that stat sheet was that these two weapons have a rate of fire at 257.14 rounds per minute, which is not the same as what the game says at 260. The reason as to why this is because I do all my computations in a literal frame-by-frame analysis, and that means that I look as to how many bullets it takes to actually kill someone, how many frames are going in between firing those bullets, and then I culminate it all together to get the weapons TTK stats that you guys just saw. At this point in time, you might be thinking to yourself, Xander, 0.7 seconds is awesome and spectacular, and that's really, really good, especially because it's on that first kill that we can get that. But with that very, very low resilience, how often is somebody running that type of resilience? Maybe a few Guardians are running that very, very high resilience, but let me assure you that from my extensive experience, many Guardians run a very low resilience, and this then means that you're probably going to get the optimal TTK at 0.7 seconds on a much more frequent basis. But now we gotta switch gears ever so slightly because this thing can actually get an even faster TTK, and the way in which it does so is by a particular perk known as Kill Clip. Before we can even get into the weapon's oh so scrumptious, delicious, spicy, and oh so crispy flavoring as to how it can get one of the best TTK sets out of any other scout in the entire game, what you have to understand first is the weapon's perks. And so as we inspect the weapon, we see that this thing has a standardized rule, and it happens to have Zen Moment or Kill Clip, Rapid Hit or Snapshot Sights, Extended Mag, Fluid Barrel, and is classified as a Rapid Frame Auto Rifle. Now I'll get into the other weapons perks in just a couple of minutes, but right now, what I really want you guys to analyze and focus in on is why I'm having Rapid Hit with Kill Clip. And the reason as to why this is because these two perks together have some of the best synergy out of any other perks in the entire game. With Rapid Hit, that perk is going to give you number 1, more reload speed, and number 2, more stability, the more precision headshots that you get. And that then means to you that you're going to get that first kill with its optimal TTK much more frequently, but simultaneously, you're then going to proc Kill Clip literally in the blink of an eye. And that, my friends, is what we're going to get into this very second. When the ranged throwing knife happens to have Kill Clip procced, this thing's then doing 63 points of damage per crit and 37 points of damage per body. Now, just like from before, you already know that depending upon a Guardian's resilience, that could change the outcome of this weapon's TTK factors significantly. And so just so that we're all on the same page, here's the weapon's TTK stats right there on screen. I got a hunch that you're noticing that top line, and yes, my friends, it says that with a Guardian 10 resilience, it can still have a very good optimal time to kill at 0.7 seconds. But if you happen to go up against a Guardian with 3 resilience, this weapon's optimal time to kill can be at 0.47 seconds. That right there is just craziness talk for a scout rifle. But what you're also going to notice is that just like from before, each one of these two values for the weapon's optimal time to kill is done with one less bullet or one more bullet, and it just simply depends upon that Guardian's resilience of who you're having to go up against. Taking one teeny tiny step back, I just want to let everyone know that 0.47 second optimal time to kill when Kill Clip is procced on this ranged throwing knife is the exact same thing as what the Recluse can get when it happens to have Master of Arms procced. And that right there is something astonishing all within itself. And hearing that information, I think it's safe to say that this weapon right here is easily worth its ritual pinnacle status. And so to you I say, is it worth the grind? Yes, and now you understand why. But what I want to go into next is I want to go back into what the weapon has for its perks, so then we can really see the weapon's base stats and how they're going to affect it, and then you can really get a sense as to how this thing is then going to function with its shot rhythm, which as you all know, is absolutely essential to understand to make this thing that much more effective for you. You already know that this thing has extended magazine, and that's then going to increase the magazine size from 17 to 19 bullets in the mag. Following this is fluted barrel, and with fluted barrel, that's then going to increase the weapon's stability stat by +5 and its handling stat by +15. But what gets overlooked time and time again is the fact that this thing is classified as a rapid fire frame scout rifle, and this means two things. Number one, it's going to fire in full auto, and number two, when the weapon's magazine is completely empty, it gains an increase in the reload speed. When you couple that with something like, say, rapid hit, this thing's going to have an extremely fast reload speed, and its aim down sight time isn't going to be too bad either. But where we can see all these things culminate is within the weapon's base stats, and you guys can see those right there on screen. The thing that I want everyone to hone in on is the weapon's range stat at 41, its stability stat at 50, its aim assistance at 63, a recoil direction that isn't so great only at 59, and a bounce intensity which once again isn't the best at 41, but it is going to the right hand side. With the weapon's range factor at 41, this is where things get a little bit interesting because we can really see that right there, the weapon's bullet magnetism at longer distances is going to be extremely good, but in those close distances, it may not be the best. And so that's something that you're just simply going to have to take into account if you want to use the weapon in all types of environments. But with just a little bit of practice, I think that you guys are going to be shutting down those guardians in those close range engagements even if they happen to have shotguns. And when that's the case, you're definitely going to be making enemy guardians a little bit salty. With the weapon's stability stat, aim assistance, recoil direction, and bounce intensity, this then means that the weapon's shot rhythm is going to be extremely good, especially when you happen to get into the later half of the magazine once you're proccing rapid hit. But within those first couple of shots in the magazine, it's going to be essential for you to really hone in on the shot rhythm and that cadence, so then you can get those crits to then proc rapid hit and make the entire rest of the magazine that much easier to use. Something that I found to be beneficial beyond my wildest dreams is putting on a counterbalance mod, because in those first couple of shots, this is what I found to make that shot cadence much more manageable, and then I was able to just absolutely annihilate, decimate, and eradicate every guardian in my path. Bada bing, bada boom, adios, bye-bye. Now, if you don't happen to land those first couple of shots in the weapon's magazine, then killing enemy guardians might be slower than sending Frodo to Mount Doom. And that, my friends, was just crazy long, even slower than molasses. But despite that, I would have to say that overall, this scout rifle is certainly unique and one of a kind, and a wonderful scout rifle at that, making this thing highly sought after in PvP and even PvE. With this, I think that you now all have a very good comprehensive understanding as to how this thing's going to function in both of those two environments. And so by all means, I'm very intrigued to hear your guys' thoughts on this down in the comment section below, and whether or not you believe that this thing is awesome, it's terrible, it's somewhere in between, or it's a gift from the heavens above, or it's the definition of moth cabbage trash shenanigans. No matter what you guys say, you always know that I'm going to respect your opinions, and that is something that I can guarantee. Lastly, be sure to watch the newest, check the latest, and share, comment, like on social media because you are the greatest. That's pretty much all I've got for you as of right now, Deislayers. And as always, GG TNT.